Q&A. Here we go. From Christopher. After, paraphrase, after Christopher was thinking about how Sorcerer came to be, um, based on the last question and answer, and then also thinking back to some of the other posts or accounts that I've given, he says, a thought that popped up in my head was this. Could you say anything about your thoughts on playtesting? At what stage should one drag a game to the table? What to do, what to never do, what to look for, etc. I will start by saying that I think the very term playtesting is wrong. It is a bad thing. So if you say, well, when do I start playtesting? I say, never, never. Do not do that thing. And that shocks everybody because isn't Ron the Forge and like it was always like born in play, right? Born in play. And I said, yes, absolutely, even more so than ever. Born in play, during play, from play, about play, toward play, always play. But you just said that's right. Think, not play testing. What do I mean? Okay, really straightforwardly. I mean the difference, and we'll take a look here on this handout that I made. That playtesting is for the thing on top, and playful play is for the thing on the bottom. Playtesting is for something that has a single purpose and a single context of use. It needs to give reproducible results. It is there to do a thing. Perhaps the thing is useless. Perhaps the thing is very useful. Perhaps this particular thing is a unnecessary elaboration upon it, or perhaps it is a remarkable bit of engineering that improves the use, or the ease of use. Perhaps it is more attractive than other things which do it. Um, Perhaps it's the first time that this particular function has been, given this device. Maybe there are thousands of them, and yours is one of many. None of that matters. What matters is that the use is to result in something that you intended it to do and needed it to do, and it does that thing. You test it to make sure that the result is reproducible, that it does not, for example, lock the can down rather than open it, a certain percent of the time. You also need to test it so that it is idiot proof. Therefore, somebody who completely doesn't get it will, should they simply follow the instructions, it will do it anyway, and the person will be gazing at the open can of tuna in astonishment that they have one now. And also that it must be durable. I like to the image I always have is there was this commercial back when I was a kid, a TV commercial, which I think it was for Samsonite suitcases, right? So they were these indestructible suitcases, and they had some poor gorilla whom they used for this advertising purpose, thinking that a gorilla has nothing better to do. But anyway, that aside, they gave the gorilla the suitcase, and this gorilla, obligingly battered it all over the cage. And then they showed that the suitcase had stood up to the attentions of a, 800-pound gorilla. And play testing is similar. If people misuse this thing, they put it through activities or treatment that isn't oriented toward opening the cans. Will it stand up? Will it, will it? If they use it wrong, will it still open cans? Typically, you're targeting the users when you play test. You're saying, I know exactly what users I'm thinking about, and they do want to open cans for the most part. I mean, so the people we're worrying about who will misuse it are their toddlers or something. But they will, but they want this. They have one perhaps, and I'd like to give them ours, or have them pay me for mine. Or they don't have one like this, and they might say, "Ooh, I like the way this one thinks. I want to do it this way." Um, and they are people who feel quite strongly that they should be able to do that thing, and um, they're social about it. So you can co-opt them into advertisement. If they use yours and not another's, their testimony toward that effect or their identification with yours in that socially active context of use, that is lit, quite much more than a purchase. It's a vote. And you can turn purchases or intentions to purchase into votes. Because socially, everybody can see the results of the running total of the votes, and that's exciting. People want to be included in that use. This is far more important, actually, than whether your thing opens cans better than someone else's. The fact that it does so at all is sufficient. And if you can't think of a way that yours is better, then you make up some shit that people will say. Or be, as well, anyway, I can talk more and more and more about the logic of marketing, but you go take classes for that and learn how to make your shit appealing when it's no different than anyone else's. And, like I say, people get paid a lot of money to teach you that, and I'm not going to do it here. So anyway, this is what playtesting is for, is to put something through a set of activities that will assure us that all these things are the case, or that our thing is eligible to be marketed. And so again, when you play test, it's really stress testing. You're seeking breakage. You're seeking failure of the axiom of determinacy. Either you try really hard and it doesn't get you there, or you misuse it and it doesn't get you there. When to pass the test, it needs to get you there. And there is a known thing. It does X. So that's playtesting. And don't do it. It sucks. It is bad for what we do. It will ruin what we do. It is counterproductive. Playful play. What's the difference? I have the picture of the saxophone there. We're talking about musical instrumentation, or we're talking about instrumentation like unto those of music. In terms of what we do, that is game design. And here, the goals are very different because you don't know what a person is going to do with it. You have your own experience of what you have done with anything like it, and with this particular thing which you are working on, and isn't it yet. That's the most important thing. It isn't it yet. And you're actually not quite sure, unlike the can opener, you're not quite sure what it will be like or what it should be like. And you are also not able to identify the single thing, the thing that it does that you're driving toward for it to do. Because playing music is already happening. There are musicians. You are one. There's lots of them. And therefore, you cannot say, okay, you could say, well, isn't that like the can openers? They're already can openers. Well, hold on here. You cannot say this thing is the one you should have. They're already doing fine playing their music. The question is whether your thing inspires anybody. Whether your thing, instead of reliably doing the thing, instead it says, do the thing in this way. It is going to be a different experience. And I don't even know what, you see, I keep saying doing the thing. It's not a thing. Do whatever it is you will do. So you don't know how well their range of what they want to do will be expanded or inspired by your thing. So you just got to put these people out of your mind. You got to take the third parties, the audience, the market out of your mind. And again, people say, oh, yeah, I can do that. No, you can't. Not without learning. So let's continue. So who is this saxophone or whatever for? For anyone who might like it. And I don't mean everyone. Did you see that? Everyone, right? Or those who. No, anyone, meaning you don't know who they are. It could be somebody who has only ever done some other thing this whole time, but your saxophone is like, ooh, I do want to try saxophone. Or it could be a whole bunch of saxophone players who may want to try this one or whatever. Um, the results vary by user. We may find that yours is really good for a certain sector of players, or we may find no such thing and there is no pattern to its preference whatsoever. Um, and the inclusion of people using it is only because they enjoy what somebody is doing with it, and that someone may not be you, and they may be doing something with it that you never did. And so if you are interested in more people, it has nothing to do with identifying who and where they are and then going to them where they are and, punching it at them. Its inclusion will expand away from your direction, away from your promotion, and in ways that you just don't know. So when you continue to work on this thing, the only guideline you have is to keep enjoying it, to keep enjoying what you're doing, playing playfully. And part of that means that you are not presenting to the people you're working with. In this sense, one should be playfully playing all the time. Arguably, having done so with other games before you even thought of yourself as designing a game, you were already messing with how you were doing it in some fashion that either led you to say, ooh, well, I've really messed with it now. I guess I'm working on something that's a little different than that thing that has a name on it, which is what is happening with Whimsical Ways relative to Legendary Lies. Or something about having played fairly, loosely or tweaking things or just perhaps even running up against boundaries in something that you're playing, your mind sort of springboards away from it and lands on a completely different thing to do that you then use as a core for continuing to work on. I don't actually distinguish between those two things at all. So, however it is that you find yourself working on something, you need to be playing teeny pieces of it and maybe for 15 minutes as you go with people who are of this supportive, non-critical, but enthusiastic mindset. So that when things, turn out to be ass, which they frequently do, it will be evident and nobody needs to process it. You don't have to have an encounter group afterward to work it all out about how to fix this thing. You'll do it. Keep going. Enjoy. James has a couple of questions. Several of your games feature a rule where a participant in a conflict has the option to forfeit their declared action in order to devote their full attention to protecting themselves. Why the attraction to that mechanic? What design goals are being served there? What has to be in place to set up the desired effects? We're talking about in Sorcerer, all these actions have been declared. We have rolled. We actually see the rolls all in front of us in regard to how hard they're coming in. That thing is directed at me. It's coming in before my action, and it is that's a lot of tens and nines sitting there. Ouch. Or whatever. You can see all these things. You see the profile of everybody's actions launched, and now their order is evident. In Sorcerer, in that situation, when you see something coming in toward you, and it's coming in before your declared action that you've rolled your dice for already. The question is, do I stay with my declared action? I would prefer to continue to try to do that, but by definition, this thing is going to come in and hammer me first, and you have this choice. You can say, well, I am going to roll a single die. You're not going to take it from the ones that are there, anything. You're going to go and get another die, and you're going to roll that right now, and that will be your defense against those coming in. Perhaps it will be a single die higher than any of those, and rock, you have defended, and you continue with your action. Or it will get through, and there will be some effect or impact upon you that may actually affect the efficacy of your attempt coming up. If a number of dice come in that give you, if the effects, for example, give you penalties, then those become bonus dice for the defense against what you're going to be doing. Or in the case of damage and things like that, you can just basically lose that action. That can just go away, depending on how bad it is. So that's your choice. Oh wait, what was your other choice, right? That was the one. If you just choose to say, I'm still trying to do that, and I'm going to try and eat that one, or if I'm really lucky to keep it from affecting me. Or what's the alternative? Forget that action. Just take those dice, put them aside. I'm not going to get around to doing that this time around. Instead, I'm going to get my full score, relevant score against defending against that thing coming in, and I'll roll all those dice and see how well I defend against it. In the fiction of Sorcerer, when everybody rolls their dice, all the agents are active. Everybody is launching into their activity. Even those who have said, well, when he does this, I do that. Well, that's basically going to be kind of up to the dice. If you're too slow, so to speak, then you didn't manage to get there in time. You have to get there ahead of that person in order to be able to do that. There you go. It's that simple. So everybody has launched into action visually, imaginatively, verbally. We know everybody is on go. So therefore, if you opt for shifting to that defense, then your character is clearly reorienting in a somewhat, highly, oh my God, reactive way. And the defensive action taken will very likely have some degree of, it could be desperation. Kind of depends on your character. Do you sort of do this robotic? Maybe your character is like got a demon robot brain or something, and you just do this kind of robot, and do a completely different posture or something. Or maybe your martial arts expertise, you flow like water into a completely different, activity, very different, obviously, from the one that you were just about to do. I mean, like engaged in initiating. Or, are you desperate and your defense is basically a soccer goalie dive over there, regardless of what, you're going this way, I'm going to go do that thing. It's like, and then jump over that way instead. Whatever. But it is of clear shift away from, and what you're doing is not going to happen. So what makes this possible, and also where did it come from? It was directly influenced by the game Zero from 1997. Very, very, actually, Zero was published during the course of working on Sorcerer. And so when it played it, I was like, oh, this guy's, Lester Smith is much smarter than I am. I like that thing. So the rule is actually a little bit different. What I just described for Sorcerer isn't precisely the same rule as you will find in Zero, but the principle is the same.